Can you hear that wind whipping as a cruise ship is headed back to South Carolina? The wind and the waves making for a really uncomfortable and at times destructive trip for those on board.
It'd be much better to go out of Florida.
Recommendations from an expert about avoiding the stormy seas, including why cruises are actually the best bet for avoiding bad weather when you're on vacation. Let's dig into it. So this right here, this is what you could expect when you think of heading out on a cruise. The big ship in port, getting ready to go out to sea. This is a live look from the cruise ship in Bahamas, where the ship is just now getting on its way. It was not this calm, not this peaceful for a recent group of cruisers. I want you to check out what things look like on board the Carnival Sunshine. The boat was heading from the Bahamas back to Charleston to dock when it got caught in some really bad weather. Passengers in their cabins captured the big waves that they were sailing through. They say the waves were so big, items were just falling out of cabinets, glasses were breaking, hallways were flooded. Carnival said no one on board was injured, but the trip was delayed getting back into port. So what can you do to try and avoid this on your next cruise? Well, here's what a travel agent had to say.
When it comes to cruising, the most important thing to do first is to think about doing the bigger, newer ships now, because the Carnival Sunshine is a much older ship, and then it's also sailing out of the Atlantic. So if you go on a cruise, let's say out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale, you're much less likely to have any kind of issues like they had.
Okay, because they're going to go into the Caribbean, I see. Shane Lawrence with Imagine Travel Vacations said while the storm that Carnival Sunshine ran into was scary, it's actually pretty rare. Cruises can often steer clear of the bad weather.
You know, something that's really interesting about cruises, as long as it's not as you're leaving the port or coming in, let's say you're out at sea and there's a hurricane headed for Jamaica, they can just turn course and go to Cozumel. And a lot of times, you know, the captain can always see a rainstorm or thunderstorm above. He can just deviate and get around that. So most of the time, a cruise is kind of your really a best bet.
So when it comes to travel insurance, should you get it? Well, travel agents say it can provide peace of mind and may not even cost that much.
Travel insurance is more of just a peace of mind policy. It's not something that you ever have to do when you book a trip. But you have to look at your investment and decide if it's worth it. But, you know, travel insurance costs have gone way down since COVID. I mean, and pretty much it's to the point to where a lot of times we can just include it in their packages for free.
Well, the numbers show a lot of people are taking cruises. Cruise Lines International Association put together a report. This year, it shows cruises have bounced back since the huge drop during the pandemic. 31 million people are getting on boats. It also shows they will not be slowing down anytime soon. You can see that the graph keeps getting higher and higher each year, hitting 39 million passengers by 2027. Travel agents say they are seeing the demand.
We knew after COVID, people really wanted to travel again, but mostly what they were doing was all-inclusive trips or, you know, going to Europe now has went up 75% from what we were doing before the pandemic. But cruises now, people are just absolutely, you know, flooding in.
Well, when you think of taking a cruise, you may think of heading to ports in Florida or Texas. Port Canaveral is the busiest port for cruise passengers, and Port Galveston is not far behind. But Virginia's port in Norfolk is picking up steam. From Greensboro, it's just about a 4-hour drive, and you could be sailing.
The Carnival Magic here can hold about 4,000 passengers, and I'm told by the end of this record-breaking cruise season, it'll be about 200,000 visits here to the city of Norfolk, and even that is just the beginning.
Look, Carnival's impact alone represents about $25 million in spending in this community.
As Executive Director of Nauticus, Stephen Kirkland oversees the Half Moon Cruise Center, where Carnival Magic docked Sunday morning. But as a former cruise director, he also sees why Carnival is starting its largest seasonal passenger commitment to Norfolk this year.
I think that we as a community have really exceeded their expectations. But the truth of the matter is they're making money out of here as well.
And so ships will move in and out each weekend, he says, from mid-May through October. The economic impact rippling out beyond Norfolk as passengers stop throughout Hampton Roads, eating and staying in hotels as they prepare to board. And Kirkland says the region has to respond by opening its doors. This season is a big one after all. Last year, Carnival announced year-round cruises starting in 2025.
We do need to make sure that our breakfast places are open, that our hotels are ready to welcome these guests. We should also not forget that on these ships, there are over 1,000 crew members, and this will become their home. And they just want to get off the ship and enjoy a burger.
And if it's a good experience, the hope is they'll stop in again and again and again as more ships come to port in the Mermaid City.
Another change we're seeing in the cruise industry, more options. We caught up with a travel agent at the beginning of the year who said families and solo travelers are now taking advantage of different trips.
We are seeing more family-oriented cruises. It's been in the past very tough to find a cabin for 5. So some of our family cruise lines are being more open and having that. Also solo travelers. It's been in the past that it was hard to get a cabin for just one person. These newer ships are having solo cabins where they don't have to pay double occupancy rates.
So when you travel, do what brings you peace of mind. Be that travel insurance, booking a vacation that won't be impacted by weather, or just staying home, staycation.